Good evening and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Touchback podcast. Again, I am Chris. That is Megan. We are here for week 8. So let's go ahead and go straight into our week 7 recap since we have a lot to talk about. Megan, get us started.
I don't know about you, but if you've looked at your fantasy lineups already this week, there's a lot of red. Most of that is because we had one or two teams on bye weeks the last couple of weeks. This week we have a whole slew of them. So as you can see, the Arizona Cardinals, the Detroit Lions, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Rams, and Seattle Seahawks are all on bye this week, which is a lot and really impactful for most people's fantasy team. You have people like Marvin Harrison Jr. that's out, Amon-Ra St. Brown that's out, Ashton Jeanty that's out, Devontae Adams that's out, and Zach Charbonnet, who was going to be my sleeper pick this week and apparently cannot be because he is on bye. We also have a whole bunch of injuries that we are dealing with as well. We've been covering them over the course of the last couple of weeks. But the most notable ones that we have right now are that we have to share that have kind of changed over the course of the last week to this week. Bryce Young, he's week to week. We haven't seen a lot going on as far as whether or not he's going to play this week or really what his injury is. Or you're saying no
Yeah, no,
to me?
they said that Andy Dalton's already getting the start.
Okay, cool. Jaden Daniels, unfortunately, is injured again, which is really, really sad for him and his team. Michael Penix Jr., day to day. I kind of think that he's going to start because he played the entire game last week. Mike Evans, poor Mike Evans. I watched the injury occur and it was just devastating for him and potentially from a career perspective. So he's out for the rest of the year. Nico Collins, concussion protocol. We can't tell you if he's going to play or not because it's all based on the protocol itself and whether or not the powers that be say it's okay. Christian Kirk, day to day, and Darren Waller, poor Darren Waller, also IR.
He's probably done for the rest of his career as well, since they just brought him out of retirement to play for them
Yeah.
this year. So that's kind of there. But luckily, like we have promised in the past, we have those different during the bye weeks. We would have people to transition you to. So here's going to be our list. What we went ahead and made is a roster percentage list of, according to ESPN, who should be available in your leagues. We're gonna give you 3 of each position, just so that you guys can see, and hopefully you guys can use it and for this week and this week only. Next week we'll see how it is, and if we need to make another one, we will. But we're gonna go ahead and start off with the Giants Jackson Dart. Ever since he got his feet underneath him, he has absolutely been killing it. Um, and the fact that the Giants are facing Philadelphia, it's going to be a bit of more of a tough matchup. So maybe you want to go with C.J. Stroud against San Francisco, or Aaron Rodgers facing off against his old team in Green Bay. Woody Marks is going to go ahead and be your Houston Texans running back because Nick Chubb is going to say, hey, back and forth, let's figure out what running back is going to have it. Woody Marks needs a few extra steps in there, a few extra carries before I think he's actually going to be able to take it on. Tyrone Tracy has been stealing those touchdowns from Scatabo and for the Giants, but again, that Philly matchup is going to be a little bit tough, but you can see he is only picked up in about 44% of the league. As for Hollywood Brown, with Rashee Rice coming back, expect Hollywood to get those deep long passes and start scoring a lot of deep touchdowns. So those bonus points touchdowns, he is a great matchup for you this week against Washington. And then also you have Kendrick Bourne with the 49ers because we don't know about Pearsall. We don't know if Bourne's going to be keeping up that volume that he's getting. But as long as Pearsall is out, I would definitely stick with him. And then Xavier Leggett, he is starting to find the end zone on a weekly basis at this point. And yes, he's facing the Bills, but that is something where he will be facing the Bills second, um, which would be just a absolutely injury littered secondary. As for the rest of the time here, We'll go ahead and check out the tight ends and the kickers and even the defenses for you. Megan, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, going down the list, we have all of our tight ends here: Otten, Mason Taylor, Johnny Smith for tight ends, Tyler Loop and Will Lutz, and I can't believe you gave me this name, Kaimi Fairbairn.
That's pretty
How'd that
good.
work out? Yeah. For kickers, and then the Cleveland Browns, Buffalo Bills, and Chicago Bears for defenses. All of these picks that we have for you, like Chris said, are in the ESPN Fantasy PPR leagues at 60% or less. So there's a really good chance that they're going to be available in your leagues. I was pretty surprised that a lot of these guys are still available across the league. So in my personal fantasy league, as well as what ESPN is showing for their rostered versus unrostered players.
Absolutely. And if you didn't see somebody there that you like or that you want another opinion, go ahead and ask us in the comments and we'll get to you before Thursday or Sunday, depending on when you put that comment in. But we'll definitely go ahead and comment you back. So let's go ahead and get to those matchups and then can get this week finished up.
If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you.
Welcome back, and now let's go ahead and get into our matchups. First off, we got the Vikings versus the Chargers. So nice West Coast game for that later time period. Megan, what do we got?
I'm expecting a close game, really. This is a short week for both teams, and it's probably going to be mostly a defensive battle. The Chargers struggle against the run, but Minnesota only rushes 40% of the time. On the offensive perspective, Justin Jefferson is pretty much the only player on the Vikings that I'm really excited about. We've seen him showing a lot of production, but that's really the only fantasy player that we want to see with his 100 yards a game this year. From a quarterback perspective, JJ McCarthy is still limited in practice. I'm not expecting him to play. So we're probably going to have the same old Minnesota team that we've had in the past. Chris, want to talk about Dolphins and the Falcons?
Absolutely. Let's head over to Atlanta. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, beautiful stadium, but it's Miami versus the Falcons. So a trash fire versus a team that should be doing very, very well. Miami, as we've said in the past, they are trying to find their legs. They just don't have it. Even on a bye week, probably the only people you want to be worried about is Devin Achane and Jalen Waddle. Darren Waller was put on IR as we talked about earlier, so you know that Tanner Connor is going to be implemented in there until they can at least get somebody to replace Darren Waller. As for the Falcons, John Robinson is a huge elite top 3 running back right now. Drake London, absolutely all-star. He's playing lights out. But the surprise sleeper on this team that we really like here is Darnell Mooney. He had a big game last week. This week he's playing a defense that doesn't want to stop anybody. So I kind of expect Darnell Mooney to really just step up. But that's all I have for the Falcons. Want to head to Baltimore?
Sounds good. The Ravens are the Ravens. They have not really shown up this year at all, and we don't really know why. On top of that, Lamar got injured. We're expecting him back this week, but we kind of said that last week. He didn't practice on Monday, supposedly practiced today, but I definitely would look out for the news or follow um our comments or the Twitter account, sorry, the X account, for updates, because who knows if Lamar is going to play. And if he doesn't play, then I expect Chicago to have a fantastic game. Scratch that. I expect Chicago to have a fantastic game. They've really shown up this year so far. Um, their defense is generating turnovers. Uh, it's going to be the Chicago show, and Baltimore might come to play. We'll see. Chris, anything else?
No, not really. Like I said, it all depends on if Lamar plays. That's kind
Yeah,
of the
for sure.
biggest thing. All right, another Buffalo game for me. Buffalo Carolina, I will be at this game. Again, I feel like I've got some really good grasp on the team, even though I've seen them win and I've seen them lose. But hopefully, this game they do win because they should win. Coming off the bye week, the Buffalo Bills are 8-0 in Sean McDermott's tenure, which means Josh Allen is 7-0 as a player in the league. Period. The only issue is Carolina is undefeated at home, so you kind of have the both of this should be a really good game. But you don't have Bryce Young because he's injured, so Andy Dalton's getting the start. You have a Buffalo's run defense that has had 2 weeks to prepare for the number one rushing team in the league with Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. And then the Bills' injured secondary, are they going to be able to stop Ted McKillen and Xavier Leggett? Will the Carolina secondary be able to stop James Cook and Khalil Shakir? Or Dalton Kincaid when he comes back from his injury, as long as he comes back from his injury? So this on paper at the beginning of the year did not look like a big game, but now this one is absolutely something to keep an eye out for, especially during the bye weeks. I'm sure you could go ahead and tag a few of those Bills receivers and maybe see if Chuba Hubbard is available or even Tommy Tremble. Kickers, can't forget the kickers here either. But that is the Carolina Panthers. Megan, why don't you go ahead and take us to Cincinnati?
Sounds good, Chris. Bengals are heavily favored to win here. Obviously, the New York Jets are the only 0-7 team left across the league. The Jets are expected to start Tyrod Taylor, though, with Justin Fields not playing very well and being sat last week. It's probably a good start. And hopefully the team is able to rally underneath a good new quarterback that has a lot of experience in the league, mostly as a second string, but still a lot of experience. Um, the Jets are missing Garrett Wilson, though, more than likely. He hyperextended his knee. There hasn't been a lot of press on whether or not he's been practicing or what the expectation is for him to play this week. So, again, follow the news, follow us, all of the things. If Garrett Wilson doesn't play, we expect to see Mason Taylor and Josh Reynolds with significant targets and carries. Um, and maybe they'll be able to show up a little bit against Cincinnati. Doubtful, though. I still expect Cincinnati to win, especially with how they've been playing underneath Joe Flacco. Um, I I'm impressed with how the team has come underneath him, right? And
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
you kind of see these quarterbacks that show up second string or when they're used to their injured quarterback and not really wanting to play for another quarterback or understanding his, ticks or whatever it is. But I really feel like Cincinnati has come underneath Joe Flacco and is playing like the team that they are. If you watched the game last week, Jamar Chase had an epic performance. He had 161 yards and a touchdown. I expect him to continue to do that. He seems to be getting the ball um, most of the time. We also have uh, Noah Fant and T. Higgins, and Evan McPherson is kind of my kicker that I'm watching right now. So definitely Cincinnati here, New York. We're just gonna wait and see and hold our breath and see if they can do anything. Chris, want to talk about those 49ers at the Texans?
I absolutely do. So this will be real quick. This is the game that if you are needing people for your team due to the bye weeks, you want to focus on this game. Nick Chubb, Woody Marks is a dual threat on the running back side for the Houston Texans, whereas you can find a wide receiver on San Francisco because all of them are backups normally. So with Ricky Pearsall still not being 100%, Jawan Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, George Kittle says, "Hey, sorry about not doing anything, putting up that big old goose egg, but he thought he was going to get the ball." So he says. We'll see if Mac Jones plays. We'll see if Brock Purdy plays. But one thing we know for sure is going to play is Eddie Pinheiro. No, Christian McCaffrey. He will be your absolute starter, absolute walk in this game. But Eddie Pinheiro, Jaime Fairbairn, those are the two kickers if you need them. Houston, you can go down the list. Christian Kirk might be coming back, but it is something that we need to keep an eye on if he's coming back from that injury. Other than that, this game is pretty much set up for us. Let's go ahead and head over to New England here in just a second.
Great job with those slides. The New England Patriots are playing the Cleveland Browns at home. If you've spent any time watching New England or in sports whatsoever, you know Drake May has had a sensational year. For whatever reason, this year has been where he's figured himself out and he's able to throw to his receivers and they're connecting and winning games, like for the first time since I don't remember how long, 2019, I think. They're number 1 in the AFC East. Unfortunately, the AFC East has a really, really easy schedule this year, and they've had some really easy opponents until they got to Cleveland, who has the number 1 defense in the league. I'm expecting it to be a good show. I'm really interested to see if Jake May is able to show up against the Cleveland D. It'll be interesting to see. On the other side of the ball, the Cleveland has their rookie quarterback, which I'm just not feeling him. I'm trying, and I know he's a rookie, but he's just not really showing up like other quarterbacks in the league that are also brand new, like Drake May. Not quite brand new, but close enough, right? Um, Dylan Gabriel leads a run-heavy offense, which means that Quinshon Judkins, Jerome Ford, and Dylan Sampson are going to see a lot of the attempts here. So definitely want to be a little bit skeptical on the New England side just because Cleveland's so good at their defense. But on the Cleveland side, you want to focus more on the running backs. Anything to add here, Chris?
Nope, sounds like a great recap of what we are to expect. Go to Philly.
Sounds good.
We have a division rematch, but this time Jackson Dart has played football for a little bit longer than half a day. So we kind of were expecting him to not struggle as much as he did when he first got started, but the Eagles are going to still come out absolutely just flying, no pun intended, maybe a little bit, but Saquon Barkley, I expect them to kind of get rolling a little bit here, but they don't. The Philadelphia Eagles are also wanting to get Cam Scatabo, excuse me, get him started. I know. Just
We're just gonna start calling him Scam.
I'm gonna call him
That works
Scam.
for me.
I like it. Hopefully that he's not too bad this week. But this is something where New York is dealing with a lot of injuries. New York is dealing with a lot of potential um, sleepers that could perform big. And in a game like this, you want those underdog players to perform big because you're facing the um, previous Super Bowl champions, and Philadelphia is a fairly healthy team with Devontae Smith being one of the top 5 receivers in the league. Dallas Goedert didn't have the game that we wanted to last week, but I kind of have a feeling they'll try to get him involved this week. But that's kind of where I feel on this division rivalry. Anything else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Dallas Goedert was so great 2 weeks ago that I kind of feel like Philadelphia didn't want to go to him directly this last week 7, because whatever team they were playing, I don't remember, would have expected them to go that route, but yeah, with as well as he did, I would be shocked if they didn't continue to use him as much as, he's doing well. Bucks at Saints. I really felt bad for the Buccaneers last week. They were playing the Lions. You would expect it to be a pretty good game because they're both have been doing really, really well this year, but the Lions took the Buccaneers to town. It was so sad to watch. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm hoping they're back this week. The only thing I can think of is the Mike Evans thing, you know? I don't know why, but maybe it's just like a team morale type situation, and with that really terrible injury that Mike Evans suffered, I don't know, because Mike Evans doesn't really receive most of the targets from Baker Mayfield. We see Amika Egbuka and Kate Otten um, getting more uh, targets than I can't even speak tonight. More targets than uh, Mike Evans does. You know, even Rashad White had a better game, but for whatever reason, they had a really terrible game. I definitely would choose Baker Mayfield in this game. I definitely would choose Amika Egbuka this game. Uh, Even Sterling Shepard and yeah, everybody on Tampa Bay, I would definitely put on your teams because they come to play and they're playing against the Saints, which are inconsistent at best. They have a really really good game and then they are terrible for a couple of games. So Tampa Bay, pick everybody on that side. New Orleans, I just I don't see anybody that I would start here this week. Chris, Cowboys, Broncos.
Cowboys Broncos sounds like you can make a good Western pun or some kind of joke or something in here. But the one thing that we do know is that the Denver Broncos, when they decide they want to play, they are no joke. Being shut out for 3 quarters, I'm sure everybody's heard this. Then scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter. It's in
In the last 5 minutes of the game.
well, the last 6 minutes they were down by 18. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that Denver came back against the odds, and I know that you were telling me earlier, Megan, in Denver, people were shutting off their TVs and saying, "This game's over." Which again, we've had some pretty epic comebacks this year, so that's something that we know Denver can play with the big dogs. Unfortunately, if Dallas gets up on you, this is something where they're going to just push and push and push and push. I don't think they're going to let up and let Denver get back into it. So that's kind of where I would go ahead with this. Either one of them, if you can get one of the top starting receivers for Denver or even for Dallas, I doubt you can for Dallas with it being CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. I would go ahead and they're an absolute start in these games. With Denver, Cortland Sutton, he is probably your biggest risk. Between Marvin Mims, they're throwing him the ball. They just can't connect with him. Troy Franklin is Bo Nick's old college teammate, so it's something that you have to just be mindful because you know Cortland Sutton's going to be getting covered by Diggs, and that secondary can lock down pretty hard. So another one of those games that you can probably find at least one or two players, but that's all I have to really say about the Denver team before we go ahead and head to Indianapolis.
And there's not much to say here either. 6-1 team versus a 1-6 team. That's about all you need to know.
All right, let's
If
move on. No, I'm joking.
pretty much, right? If you have Jonathan Taylor on your team and you're not using him, why are you even playing fantasy? Play Jonathan Taylor. Expect Indianapolis to win. Maybe we see a little bit of fire underneath Tennessee with their new coach, but I don't think it's enough to start anybody on Tennessee. That's all I have to say about this game.
Nice and simple. Makes it nice and easy.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
Packers at Steelers?
Packers at Steelers. Here we go. 2 games left. Sunday Night Football. The Aaron Rodgers revenge game, right? No, it's not going to be a revenge game because there's not really anybody playing on there that Aaron remembers playing with. Jordan Love was the guy who replaced him, sure. Romeo Dobbs was the rookie, sure. So that's and Tucker Craft, maybe I don't remember, but I can promise you that Green Bay is going to have more pressure to beat Pittsburgh than Pittsburgh is going to beat Green Bay. the Josh Jacobs rushing game is where I really would kind of be saying that this is the good matchup. Jordan Love, sorry, cat is trying to eat the microphone. Jordan Love is going to have his options definitely against this Pittsburgh defense. Whereas DK Metcalf, it's he should, but the beauty about DK Metcalf is that if Rodgers has time, he can get it to him. With Micah Parsons being on the other side, I don't know he's going to have time. So that's kind of the biggest. That's kind of the thing where I think I'd rather pick for Pittsburgh's running game with Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell versus the passing game. I think I'd rather pick Green Bay's passing game versus the rushing game. Either way, you should be able to get a good average scoring on these two matchups. Kansas City to finish it up on Monday night.
Sounds good. Who does Michael Parsons play for?
Green Bay.
Just checking.
You know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Washington Commanders are in Kansas City to play the comeback Chiefs. I don't know where this Chiefs team came from. I don't know if it was them waiting for Rashee Rice to get off a suspension or if it was something else entirely. But for whatever reason, the Kansas City Chiefs are back to fill all of our televisions with their jerseys. I don't know. On the other side of the ball, Washington has extensive injuries. Jaden Daniels is out again. And it's kind of a rinse and repeat type situation. Commanders are done for the season as far as I can tell. Who knows if they come back with some miracle or something else, but I just don't see it happening. And Kansas City is playing like Kansas City always plays. So we'll see. Kansas City all the way for me here. And
Yeah,
I hate saying that.
I know. Hard to see them back in the limelight and being on top of power rankings and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing you can say is that Kansas City does have a lot of weapons now, and I guarantee you a lot of them are not on rosters for this week. And this week is good week to pick them up. So be sure to check out what we said. If you have any questions or have any comments on maybe you want to see what matchup is for one of the teams that we did go over but didn't go really in depth into, toss it in the comments. Let us know. See if you have any questions, and we'll definitely get back with you. But when we come back, we'll go ahead and figure out. You guys get to hear who we are going to have on our sleepers, our traps, and our locks. Also, the recap and how we did from last week. Right back. Make sure to like and subscribe now. Welcome back, and that was our matchups for Week 8 of the NFL season. As you can see, there are a lot of teams that are on their buys, as we've talked about, and there aren't that many matchups to have to deal with. So luckily, as we've done in weeks past, we are going to give you our sleepers, our traps, and our locks, and then we're going to go ahead and show you what we did last week. Megan?
Yeah, so last week we had the sleepers, traps, and locks that we thought were going to be good picks. Really, we did pretty good. I have us at 11 A's, 5 C's, and 2 F's. So pretty good as a whole. Chris, let's talk about the sleepers from last week. Jackson Dart, Jamar Chase, and Jake Moody all had fantastic games. Evan Ingram and the Packers were about as expected. And then Silly Bill did not have the best game, but, it's all dependent on your team. And we thought that the Commanders were going to have a pretty good game this week, and they did not. So I'm not completely off the fence for Ja'Cory here, but we'll see. He might do better in the future, but last week he did not. Next, we'll talk about traps. As a whole, we really did very, very well. The only one that we didn't quite hit the mark on was Devontae Adams, and that's only because he had a lot more touches than we we previously expected. Total receiving yards were low, but he was able to turn half of his receptions into touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns overall, which was crazy.
Well, I don't think
From the
we
loss,
had. I don't think that we had Devontae Adams on our traps, Meg. I was glad to see that Devontae Adams did great, but I think you might mean Devin A. Which again, he still did really well, but it was his least attractive performance of the season. So that might be where we were. But yeah, you were talking about the locks.
yeah, sounds good. Locks, we did fairly well. I'm checking to make sure that I have everything the same here because apparently I was dreaming when I wrote this. Um, Drake May, Rico Dowdle, and Cleveland all had fantastic games. They were A's in my book. Lad McConkey and Dallas Goddard were pretty much we expected. Goddard, we were hoping was going to have a great game, but he was just kind of same old, same old. The only bad one we didn't do very well on was like groupie or group
I think it's Group
groupie.
B. It's Group B.
Um,
Let
the
us know in the
only field
comments.
the only field goal attempt that he attempted, he missed, which means that at least one field goal in the last out of all the games he's played this year, he's missed at least one field goal 71% of the time. So I'm done with like group B, grouper, whatever we want to call him. But yeah, that's
He's
our
a
locks for
fish
the
dead in the
he's a
water.
I mean, he's a saint.
Clever. It's a very clever, clever thing.
Moving on to week 8. This week we're hoping to do about the same as far as our picks go. Uh Chris, do you want to talk about the sleepers?
Yep. Carson Wentz, Rashad White, Alec Pierce all have really good matchups. I think this is not only sleepers that you can go ahead and say, hey, if I have them on my team, go ahead and start them. But check your free agency. That's really where we want to go ahead because all of these players should have at least some should be available in some of your leagues. So definitely Carson Wentz with that Minnesota matchup, Rashad White on Tampa Bay. You know they're going to, with Mike Evans out and Chris Godwin out, you know they're going to go ahead and try to rely on that run game a little bit. And then Alex Pierce, he has been getting receptions and touchdowns throughout the week. He's always playing. He's always on the field. And with that Tennessee matchup, I absolutely would say that Alex Pierce is a high end sleeper pick here. What else do you think, Meg?
I was going to say the same thing about Kate Otten with the Bucks injuries. You know, he's seen a lot more touches, become a really big favorite from the bigger perspective. Will Reichard, he had 18 fantasy points last week. Definitely a kicker if you're looking for one to put onto your teams. And then the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, it's a really favorable matchup this week. Wentz likes to hang on to the ball, and the Chargers are really good at taking the ball from him or anybody that they play against or pressuring the quarterback and making it difficult for him to throw the ball. So I really expect the Los Angeles Chargers to do well from a defensive position
Position?
this week. I can speak. Traps?
Traps and traps and traps and Spencer Rattler, as we talked about earlier against with the New Orleans Saints, he was feeling really good at the beginning of the year, but it kind of looks like everybody has figured him out. So it looks like a good situation for him, but I wouldn't even want to test it. Tyrone Tracy, Scadaboo is taking the majority of the stuff, but again, you have a Philadelphia Eagles defense that does let running game get through. So some people say, hey, it's a good handcuff to have a Scadaboo, but I don't think Tracy's the one that you want to be worried about. As for DK Metcalf, I think Rodgers will try to show out, but I think it's probably going to be a Freiermuth tight end type of game versus a DK Metcalf with him facing against Green Bay. And obviously, he's going to need time for DK to get open with Michael Parsons breathing down his neck.
Totally. The rest of them, Hunter Henry, you know, I'm holding my breath for this kid to show up. He scored less than 10 points each of the past 3 weeks. It's just not consistent from a fantasy perspective. Looking forward to him doing well. It might be this week since uh New England's going to be looking for other places to explode or explore, with the Browns defense being a much more difficult defense. Matt Gay, it just really comes down to workload. They're playing Kansas City this week, and I'm just expecting Kansas City to keep them on the wrong side of the field. So Matt Gay is not going to be able to hit those field goals like he should be able to. And then the Vikings for defense, um, they've just really been struggling against top passing teams this year, and I don't expect them to do well this week either. So those are our traps for the week. Chris, do you have anything else to say about the traps?
Nope, not the traps, but we'll move on to the locks, and we'll make this real fast because we've already talked about this throughout the
Most of them,
matchups.
yeah.
So Daniel Jones, Bijan Robinson, Rashee Rice. Jones, Tennessee. That's all you have to say. Bijan Robinson, elite top 2 running back in the top 3 league. That's all you got to say. Rashee Rice showed out. He knocked off whatever rust he had very quickly. So 2 weeks in, now he's back, and he's gonna fly.
Yeah, I kind of doubt that Rashee Rice was not practicing in his suspension because he was perfect and was used a lot. So it's an interesting turn of events for our Kansas City Chiefs and their ability to get around the rules of the game.
They're a good team. That's all we're gonna say about that.
Ding. Further down, the Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. He's been injured. Bills had a bye week last week. We're really hoping that the Bills are able to get back to their offense and using him like they were in the first couple of weeks of the season. Evan McPherson, from a kicker perspective, plays for Cincinnati. He had 17 points in fantasy last week, which is crazy for a kicker. And then the Indianapolis Colts. Not much more you can say about the Indianapolis Colts. From a defensive position, I said it again. They were able to they're able to make turnovers and sacks, and even though they came off of a blowout loss last week, I expect them to do well this.
Based in Tennessee, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. You face Tennessee, you want to start whoever you have. So, all right, Megan, wrap us up.
Yeah, so that's our show, you guys. We kind of changed it up a little bit this week, tried to change the order of things we did, talked about injuries and bye weeks and other players to look out for. Let us know in the comments if you really like the way that we changed the show up. Also, make sure you're liking and subscribing so that we can build the base a little bit more and see all of your wonderful faces, I guess, or comments or
Rosters,
something.
something.
Yeah, whatever.
Interaction's key.
Interact with our comments and like and subscribe. Chris, anything else to say?
Only one thing, and you guys know what it is. Nobody circles the wagons like CTW. Y'all have a good weekend, good night, and keep an eye on everything else.